The lunar nodes are not physical bodies. They are symbolic reference points. They are formed where the moon's orbit around the Earth intersects with the Earth's orbit around the Sun. One of these points is closer to the North Pole and is called the North Node. The other lies closer to the South Pole and is known as the South Node. Some astrologers consider the lunar nodes secondary. Others see them as absolutely central. In fact, if you had very limited time to explain a person's life direction, understanding only the lunar nodes could already be deeply revealing, because the nodes describe a fundamental axis of development, where we come from and where we are being drawn to grow. North Node in Scorpio, or the 8th house, South Node in Taurus, or the 2nd house. When the North Node is in Scorpio, or the 8th house, and the South Node is in Taurus, or the 2nd house, the individual is asked to develop the healthy qualities of Scorpio while becoming conscious of the shadow expressions of Taurus, which feel more familiar and instinctive. With the South Node in Taurus, a person often believes that life will finally change once they have enough money, or that they will be able to give to others once they have accumulated enough resources. Yet paradoxically, there is never a sense of having enough. The individual never feels financially secure enough to take risks and rarely experiences true safety. Comfort becomes the primary goal, along with preserving that comfort at all costs. This person seeks peace, stability, and security, not only through material resources, but also through relationships that provide a sense of safety and predictability. However, because the North Node lies in Scorpio, the sign of crisis and transformation, lasting peace cannot be achieved through avoidance. Life repeatedly brings storms, losses, and crises that strip away the illusion of security. Only after passing through these experiences, after losing peace and discovering that they can survive without it, can true inner stability emerge. When the South Node is in Taurus, the tendency to focus rigidly on one condition and resist change becomes counterproductive. Attachment to comfort, pleasure, and familiarity may feel soothing, but it ultimately works against personal growth. For transformation to occur, the individual must be willing to risk what feels safe and familiar. Yet fear of insecurity often causes them to cling even more tightly to comfort, resources, and control. When someone becomes overly self-reliant in this way, obsessively protecting their own resources, they paradoxically cut themselves off from receiving support from others. In order to feel safe, they withdraw inward, building emotional and energetic walls around themselves. However, with the North Node in Scorpio and the 8th house, the evolutionary task is precisely the opposite. This placement calls the person to learn how to share resources, to trust others, to open themselves emotionally, to express their needs, and to both give and receive. Growth occurs through participation in something larger than the self. The qualities that need to be developed under the Scorpio North Node include willingness to be part of a greater whole, equal sharing of resources, deep merging that leads to transformation, letting go of what is no longer necessary, learning to enjoy life without needing to possess everything, understanding the power to influence conditions and dynamics, avoiding control through dependency, self-mastery, and constructive change. The Taurus traits that need to be released include resistance to change, over-attachment to comfort and pleasure, inertia and stagnation, excessive focus on money and material security, expecting safety to come solely from external conditions, possessiveness, jealousy, rigid attachment to familiar and proven paths, chronic dissatisfaction, and deep-seated fear of loss or scarcity. North Node in Gemini, or the 3rd house, South Node in Sagittarius, or the 9th house. With the North Node in Gemini, or the 3rd house, and the South Node in Sagittarius, or the 9th house, the individual is asked to develop the healthy qualities of Gemini while becoming aware of the shadow patterns of Sagittarius, which feel more familiar and comfortable. This nodal axis reflects a fundamental tension between seeking neutral, comprehensive information through active communication and becoming trapped in a rigid intellectual world shaped by fixed beliefs, absolute principles, and unquestioned philosophies. On the South Node side, the individual may become stubborn, overly confident in their own worldview, and resistant to modifying their perspective. They may constantly look upward and outward, searching for ultimate truth, wisdom, or a higher meaning, while paradoxically struggling to transmit what they already know in a way others can understand. This placement can create a communication style that feels distant, declarative, or difficult to follow, sometimes accompanied by an attitude that others perceive as lecturing or condescending, often without the person being fully aware of it. With the North Node in Gemini, or the third house, the soul's task is to learn how to engage with life through dialogue, curiosity, and participation within the immediate environment. Only through active communication can this individual truly share their wisdom. Their deeper knowledge, philosophical or spiritual, needs to be translated into practical language, adapted to everyday life, and conveyed in a way that is accessible to siblings, peers, and the close social circle. Learning to speak the language of the community becomes essential. When the South Node is in Sagittarius, or the ninth house, one of the main obstacles to forming meaningful connections is an obsession with freedom and personal truth. A prominent shadow expression is the tendency to place oneself in the role of the judge, deciding what is right, wrong, meaningful, or meaningless. This can result either in intolerance or, conversely, an exaggerated and unrealistic form of tolerance that lacks discernment. Other patterns that need to be released include excessive optimism, overconfidence, inflated expectations, living almost entirely in the future, missing what is right in front of one's eyes, and relying on abstract beliefs rather than observable reality. The Gemini qualities to be developed include healthy curiosity, asking questions instead of making assumptions, listening actively, learning how to learn, gathering information, seeing both sides of an issue, using language playfully and intelligently, connecting with people through words and dialogue. The Sagittarius qualities to be released include believing one is always right, taking oneself too seriously, fanatical attachment to principles, intellectual laziness disguised as certainty, acting without evaluating data, resisting alternative viewpoints and belief systems, operating through prejudice and assumptions, moralizing and judging, unconscious, impulsive spontaneity. North Node in Sagittarius, or the ninth house, South Node in Gemini, or the third house. With the North Node in Sagittarius, or the ninth house, and the South Node in Gemini, or the third house, the individual is asked to develop the higher integrated qualities of Sagittarius while becoming conscious of the shadow patterns of Gemini, which feel familiar and easy to fall back into. When the South Node is in Gemini, or the third house, the person may be overly influenced by their immediate environment, by local ideas, prevailing opinions, and the mindset of the people around them. There is a tendency to remain mentally close to the familiar, to operate within narrow frameworks, and to miss the larger picture. In many ways, this reflects a strong attachment to belonging within a local or social context, rather than stepping back to see life from a broader perspective. Excessive curiosity, the urge to rationalize everything, and constant skepticism are comfortable patterns for this placement. The mind is always active, questioning, analyzing, comparing, but often without arriving at a deeper conclusion. Information accumulates, yet meaning remains fragmented. For someone with the North Node in Sagittarius, the soul's task is very different. This individual must learn how to make decisions, commit to beliefs, and remain grounded in them. While listening and asking questions remain important, there comes a point where endless inquiry must give way to inner conviction. They are asked to stop trying to guess what others are thinking, to abandon excessive mental strategizing, demagoguery, and the need to intellectually explain everything. This nodal placement requires the person to expand their perspective in order to access wisdom, the deeper meaning that lies beneath concepts, words, and facts. Truth here is not something collected through scattered data, but something discovered through lived experience and inner alignment. For those with the North Node in Sagittarius, periods of intentional solitude can be deeply beneficial. Spending time alone in nature allows inner knowledge to surface, intuition to speak, and meaning to crystallize. Constant conversation, mental stimulation, and social interaction, typical of the Gemini South Node, can actually prevent this deeper process from unfolding. The Sagittarius qualities to be developed include trusting inner knowledge and intuition, cultivating a sense of freedom and adventure, believing in one's own vision, spending time alone, especially in nature, hearing the meaning behind words, not just the words themselves, opening to broader perspectives, understanding the significance of experiences, learning through direct experience, healthy spontaneity. The Gemini qualities to be released include trying to understand everything before it is spoken, treating every conversation like a debate to be won, excessive talking and mental noise, gossip and superficial exchanges, instant reactions and verbal reflexes, sarcasm and irritability, restlessness and nervousness, constantly searching for information while missing what is already known, rationalizing unethical or empty behavior, trying to read others' minds instead of listening, planning responses instead of truly hearing what is being said.
This concludes part 2 of our exploration of the lunar nodes and their psychological and evolutionary meaning in the birth chart. In the next video, part 3, we will continue by examining the remaining nodal axes and how they shape life direction, growth, and karmic patterns. To understand your own lunar nodes more deeply, consider which houses your North Node and South Node fall into in your natal chart. The sign shows how growth happens, but the house reveals where in life this process unfolds most clearly. If you would like to continue this series and explore the full picture of the lunar nodes, make sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you don't miss the next part.